Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves and each other and the world. So good to be together. If you are here in person and you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, make sure to stop by the welcome table in the lobby there with the blue tablecloth and chat with our membership engagement coordinator, John Wright. You can fill out a paper or online so-called green sheet there, and also fill out a declaration of membership if this is the week you've decided to join this congregation. One other thing before we begin our service. Again, we continue to deal with some plumbing. I'm afraid it's all our administrator has done all week, is deal with the issues under the main hall. So we are not supposed to run any water in this building, hence no use of these bathrooms. So hope the rain will keep holding off for us. You want to use the restrooms over by the office. So go over to the other side of the building, the fireside room here with the blue doors, the other side, and you'll see the signs for the two restrooms there. And now, with our beautiful returned new piano and Liz Russ to help us inaugurate it, let us begin our service.
In the words of former president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, the Reverend William Schultz, this is the mission of our faith: to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. With our centering words, Each week, we draw on the many sources of our living tradition. Today's words are from the book Letter to My Daughter by the U.S. poet and novelist Maya Angelou. A friend may be waiting behind a stranger's face. As we follow the bell into silence, we allow ourselves to arrive here fully.
Once again, without Kat here, I forgot to put the quilt up. Harry, could you or Kathy, could you bring the quilt from? It's in the box with the face on it. You'll know it when you see it. All right. Well, I don't want to make you all frantic, but Kat's usual box of stuff. Just so if anybody wants to come up, they've got someplace a little bit more cozy than the floor to sit. There, they found it. In the meantime, I'll start my story, which is called Dudley Pippin and His No Friend. Eloise is like, I don't care. All right. Woo, warm up the floor. Dudley Pippin, I'm retelling this story a little bit in my own words because I don't have the book in front of me. Dudley Pippin moved to a new city. Anybody ever do that? Did any of you ever move? You always lived in the same house? Anybody else out there? Yeah. Seeing a lot of people who've moved, so they know what it's like to get to a new city. Didn't move to a different city, just a slightly different neighborhood, right? So Dudley said to his mother, nobody knows me here. I'm going to have to tell people all about myself. He went outside and he saw the girl from next door. And he went up to her and said, hi, my name is Dudley Pippin. I live in the yellow house next door. My father's name is Mr. Pippin. My mother's name is Mrs. Pippin. I have a lot of other relatives. They have names too. Would you put it down, and anybody who wants to join us, we'll move to the, thank you so much, Harry. It feels cozier, doesn't it? Yay! Dudley went on. He said, my mother has a saxophone, but 2 keys are broken, and once I fell on my head, and I had to get 3 stitches right here. You could have done that too, okay? And the girl said, wow. And my father cut his nose this morning while he was shaving, and he says our name is in the telephone book. I can't explain what that is right now, but ask your parents. Our name is in the telephone book, and that means that our name is all over the city in every place that has a telephone. And I was in an airplane once, and I have a finger painting set and a red bicycle that used to be my father's, and a ball of tinfoil 5 inches across. The girl said, wow, my name is Naomi. Do you have a friend? No, I just moved here. I don't have a friend. Neither do I, Naomi said. And Irving Gland across the street, he doesn't have a friend. We play together because neither of us has a friend. Dudley said, we could start a club. Only people who don't have a friend can belong. Naomi said, we could call it the No Friends Club. Yeah. So I wanted to know, you haven't moved to other places, but you've probably had the experience of going to a new classroom or something where you didn't know people. Did you use the Dudley method to get to know people? Sophia, you were holding your head at one point. Could you explain to me what that was about? Or yeah, exactly. Was there something funny or?
I know, it's funny.
It's just funny. Did you ever introduce yourself like that, telling people all the things about yourself?
No.
What do you usually do when you're trying to get somebody new?
Hi, my name is so-and-so.
You say, hi, my name is so-and-so. That must be a little confusing. Do they call you so-and-so from then on? Oh, I got an eye roll for that. The face palms are many up here this morning. Okay, so you go up and you tell them your name. He did that, yeah, okay.
Then calls me
The head slapper. What else? What do you find that is helpful? I'm asking this because one of the grown-ups in the congregation asked for help making friends. She said, it's really hard when you're grown up, and a lot of people said, oh yeah, it's really hard when you're grown up. And I thought maybe we could get some tips from kids because you're always meeting new people. Ish? No? You've tried to find out what their interests and hobbies are? See if they like what you like? All right, so Dudley's doing okay at the start. He's saying what some of his interests are. He could follow up by saying, have you ever ridden in an airplane? Do you collect anything? Right, that might be. Have you been what? Maybe not, yeah. Well, thank you all so much for helping with that. We are going to sing a song, and I'd ask you to stick around to the last verse, so you all get to know it, but you can go back and wherever your hymnals are. We are all going to sing What Wondrous Love, which is number 18. And your teachers will, if you don't know where your classroom is, folks who are going to religious education, your teachers will help you get there. Kat is not here this morning. I know she told the teachers that. She is sick, but we'll make sure you're getting where you're going. But first, let's all rise and sing together. Number 18, the words are in your order of service if you're online. And again, when we get to the last verse, those who need to go to religious education can head out.
Oh
this morning. They are in the online order of service, and short versions of them are in the printed order of service. So do go and check out UUCPA.org to find out much more detail of what's going on around church. As I said, we have a big announcement is we have our piano restored and returned to us after many months. Yay! We will hear, we'll be singing along with it, of course, as is Liz today, but we'll have a very piano-rich service coming up so that we can just really enjoy it, hearing lots of pieces. Is Elsa here? Elsa Schaefer, there? No, okay. So I have Elsa's piece to read. Or are you going to read it for her, Lisa, or do you want me to read it? All right, I will read it. I'm going to pretend to be Elsa here. I knew she sent it along for a reason. Thank you, Amy, and all of you. See, I'm Elsa. Elsa, if you don't know, is the chair of our 75th anniversary capital campaign. Something special is happening here that I've rarely experienced recently. It is such a gift to me and turns out to be to others also. We have been taking an hour, sometimes more, sometimes less, getting to know another person or couple whom we've seen here often or who's completely new to us. It's rare that I, for one, take time to have a real conversation these days, too often working on a project, knowing wonderful people through them, but rarely hearing someone's story. Every single person I've talked with here teaches me how much there is to appreciate, what richly deep human beings these people all around us are. My 5-minute patio coffee chat doesn't begin to touch what I get from these conversations. This all happens because I volunteered to be a steward for the 75th anniversary campaign, the joint annual fund and capital campaign, which keeps our doors open day to day and builds our future in this richly stimulating, caring, thoughtful community. So thank you all for creating this community, for letting me too drink of it. Now I'm discovering how much deeper it is than I ever knew. I invite you to join us on this enlightening adventure by becoming a steward too. As one person said when she was considering joining in, I go to celebrations of life here for people who have recently passed away, and I think, what a fascinating person. If only I'd gotten to know that fellow traveler better while they were here. This is a way to discover that deeper, fascinating person. Hear, hear, says Amy. We want everyone here to have at least one of these wonderful conversations and need just a few more stewards to make sure we reach everyone. So please join us. Those of you who are a steward for making capital campaign or annual fund visits, could you rise for just a moment or raise your hand so we can see who all is doing that? Yay! When she says us, she says, please join us, these fine people. Find us on the patio. We would love to answer any of your questions and sign you up. And please keep an eye peeled for any of us. We'd love to have you join us. And P.S., it's over this month. It's one of those discrete projects with an end in sight. Yes, yet such long-lasting rewards, given all the worthy people you know more deeply and those who are new to you. Such heartening discoveries. I would like to add to what Elsa said, in addition to how much I love these conversations, that I have a little gift for anybody who is a steward, and if I haven't given you yours yet, please come up to me, and I will spoil the surprise because I want to tell everybody else what to look for. Look for somebody who's wearing a little gold redwood cone pin, and they are working on the capital campaign this year. So I want to make sure you've got it if it's for you, and you can watch for it. And if not, you can say, didn't I see you stand up? Let us now turn our thoughts from announcements to the important events of our lives, joys and sorrows, which we wish this community to share. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share this or any morning, you can write it on the card when you arrive here. If you're on Zoom, you can put it in the Zoom chat box, and anyone, anywhere, can send it to joyconcern@uucpa.org. I usually have one or two that way, and I can check it here and now. Blessed be. Theda is wearing two hats this morning as our worship associate and also giving a testimony, as several people are doing over this several weeks, about why UUCPA is important to her. So we will hear that heartfelt testimony now.
Sorry, I have a few technical issues. All right, so I'm Theda Corns, as was already mentioned, pronouns she, her. Castor, who is sitting in the audience, I'm going to out him, are early pledgers for the capital campaign because we believe in the UUCPA and want it to achieve its mission. In 2013, before times, right? Hybrid services were not a thing. My family reluctantly agreed to go to UUCPA because I wanted to go to church. That first service, I knew this would become our church. It started with food. Food builds community. My kids are now off to college, so I can tell you this story. In kindergarten, a well-meaning friend told my son Torin he was going to go to hell if he didn't believe in Jesus. Now, Torin is one of the most accepting people I know, but he's also very logical. And this conversation made him a devout atheist. And church was the last place he wanted to go. I said to him, why don't you go just once? There's hot chocolate. For years, he would make a half sugar, half hot chocolate mixture. He thought I didn't notice. I did, but it seemed a small price to pay for him to go to Sunday school. My son loves to cook. When he was old enough to be independent in the kitchen, both my kids helped in the kitchen for years. But our kitchen is cramped. It's not currently possible for an adult and a child to do the same job together, which is what he would have needed when he was in kindergarten. I mean, even simple things like preparing a salad. I imagine a kitchen where instead of bribing Torin with hot chocolate, I could have said, you can come cook in the kitchen. I can't underestimate the importance of food to my family. My son listed food as one of his considerations for college. My daughter is now the secretary of all her college's food co-ops. Food brings people together. My kids would stay later at church for food, right? Because we used to have a 9:30 service and 11 o'clock service. And when we had two services, we met many people in the second service over Sunday lunch. A new kitchen is one of the ways we can become truly equitable. We also host the unhoused 2 months a year. But again, our kitchen limits us. Right now, the church has accessibility, but equity is removing boundaries. We have gender-neutral bathrooms, albeit with plumbing issues. So we didn't quite finish the work. Even without the plumbing issues, we converted single-sex bathrooms to gender-neutral bathrooms, and they look like converted bathrooms. I'm glad the capital campaign is already paying for new plumbing. It's clearly needed. But I'd like to see the bathrooms converted into bathrooms that are truly accepting of all genders. Last but not least, I hope we can stretch a little deeper and go beyond the initial ask. I know this wasn't one of the priorities, but for me, I want the patio and the main hall to be on the same level and to the walkways to be a lot more forgiving when people fall. Our walkways were designed long before the Americans with Disabilities Act. I've seen 2 people fall in front of my eyes while waiting in line for food and sustain serious injuries. Equity means accepting everyone, including those at risk for falling. For me, especially as someone who uses a service dog, I guess you can't see him in the camera, but those in the audience can see him, to prevent falling. Equity means that our walkways are as accepting as the people at our church. So now I'm going to move on to my reflection, which is on a completely different subject, which is Oh, we're going to sing first. Sorry.
You get a little break. To give Theda a little break, we will sing. There we go. Let's sing together. If you have the online order of service, you see the words to With Heart and Mind right there. If you need a hymnal, it is number 300. Please rise in body or spirit. With heart and mind and voices.
Well, as you can probably tell, on the whole worst associate thing, because the last time I did it was actually we're outside. You remember that? So we're all outside. So in some ways, I am a terrible person to give you advice on making friends. I'm the tortoise, like in the photo, in the order of service. In some ways, I'm a great person to give advice on making friends, or at least meeting people. Despite my tortoise nature, I have over 1,000 friends on Facebook. Now, friends on Facebook represent my pool of potential friends. Plus, I have this adorable service dog, people come up to. But my main advice is adult friendships are different than friendships you made as a kid or in college. In those days, you encountered the same people for hours a day. So friendships could happen more organically. Now, if you're like me, you have competing demands for your time, husbands, kid, a job, and yep, still a tortoise. So I have to make a conscious effort or a plan. Here's my plan for meeting people. Step 1, find a community. I think looks interesting, like UUCPA. I also have friends from Canine Companions, where I got my service dog, and my political and nonprofit work. 2, go in with an open heart and be ready to listen. The old saying about 99% of life is showing up is true. 3, be myself. I am the only person who knows how to be me. Some people won't like me. It's a fact of life. But look at all the people here. I'm not looking for 1,000 people to be my close friends, but 1 or 2. If I'm lucky, someone in that community will come up to me and introduce themselves. This part is super important. I just listen to what they have to say with an open heart. I think everyone fears rejection, and we live in a culture that judges people by first impressions, which are often based on what people look like. I would never get a tattoo in a million years, nor get a lip piercing, but I have a friend who has both. That person who came up to me has just made a friendship bid, a small one, but friendship nonetheless. Okay, so what if no one approaches me? Well, I just consider that bad luck. That person who would have come up to me is not there, or had to run off to do the many things that compete for their time. I look around. I came here to find people. There's someone who looks interesting to me. It's just a gut feeling. Now remember, I talked about taking risks, and I'm a tortoise, but it's a small risk. I go up to that person and I say, "Hi, I'm Theta Corns. I'm new here," like in the story we heard. Well, if you're taking my advice, and this is facepalm, you use your name because you're being yourself here. Most people will then introduce themselves and talk a little about the organization. Occasionally, you'll just get, "Hi, Beth," but this person doesn't know you. I suppose they could have decided they hate me already and I'm a demon, if you believed in demons, but 99% of the time, they're more of a tortoise than I am. So I have a question ready. The easiest one that fits 99% of scenarios is, what brought you here? It can tell you a lot. We live in a culture that values extroverts and instant connections. I've gotten into trouble for using the word acquaintance, but for me, I estimate it takes 10 to 20 hours, and I'm not talking about like intensely staring at the person for 10 to 20 hours. I just mean like chit-chat, over a coffee hour or whatever, to know if there's potential for friendship. During this time, I remain open because there are some core things I'm looking for that take time to see for myself, like kindness and empathy. Some people who appear kind on the surface say nasty gossip about others. I mean, we all know this about some people, unfortunately not here. While someone who appears gruff and unfriendly can be a person who offers to do some kind thing in their gruff way. And here is where I run out of good advice. I am a tortoise. I move very slowly, And I tend to let urgent things get in the way of forming friendships. I don't think many people know I'm a tortoise, which doesn't help. I mean, I have this dog, as I mentioned, and I do go up to people and talk to them. And I doubt I'll move more quickly. It's just my tortoise nature. But I am working on coming out of my shell. For me, that means talking about something that's other than the original thing that brought us together. This may sound really simple, but to me it was like, oh, yeah, I get really comfortable talking about the safe topics that are in this group of people. It can be risky moving out of that safe lane of conversation. It can veer into people being offended or difficult conversations like why I think Trump is awful. Yes, a conversation I've stumbled into several times. And you can imagine that, suddenly discovering this potential friend is a Trump supporter for me is not, we discovered that friendship is probably not going to work. But as a new trustee, I've been forced to relearn the art of having difficult conversations. And I'll leave you with two questions. What are the ways in which you're a tortoise? And how could you come out of your shell?
We have a responsive reading requested by Barbara Smith Thomas, who inspired this topic by being the winning bidder in the You Choose the Sermon topic item in the auction and asking for this topic. She said, and this reading, it's a great one. It's in the hymnal page number 468, or again, it's printed in the online order of service. So let's read it responsively with first this side of the room, and then this side reading the italics, and those at home, pick apart, or hey, you get to read them all. Again, the words are right there for you. Let's begin. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs did so great last week. We brought the service in at under an hour. I mean, not like, time is the whole thing, but I do know you have some other plans, including we have fabulous things happening at 11:30. So I will try not to speak for too long. However, nor do I want to give Barbara or this rich, rich topic short shrift. I mean, I could go on for pages and hours about why friendship is so important, why it's so necessary to our health, to our mental health, to our spiritual well-being, to everything that we are in our lives, but I won't. I'll let you think about that part for yourself. I will just say that friendship, I think, is the great overlooked relationship. We have all these days for lots of other things. I know there's like a friendship day, but does anybody here know when it is? Yeah, okay. When's Valentine's Day? We all know, right? Adults' lives have, if anything, more uprooting, more losses of friendship than children's. And there's relocating to be close to family. Lots of folks have come to our congregation that way and left our congregation for the same reason. Got to go be close to where our family is, and this is a big country. As we get older, we may relocate to get the care we need, and that can pull up our roots from communities that we know well. Even if we stay in the same place, with work being where we find so many of our friends and our, as Theta said, our pool of potential friends, and with most of our time, even our leisure time, spent with coworkers, what happens when somebody leaves that job? If somebody that you've become friends with on the job doesn't work there anymore, do you still get together with them? Not during work hours, and not during all the kind of volunteer activities and so on that you do with other coworkers and so on, and so that friendship tends to slide. So it's a challenge. And if you're thinking it's harder than it was when I was a kid, you're not wrong. There's a lot of research about this, and almost everybody who just speaks of their own experience says, yeah, it's gotten harder. Now, as Theta said, it's not that different in kind from when we're young, except that we're not thrown together as much. We have that one circle, maybe, at work. We don't get passed from class to class and activity to activity, each one of which has this potential to develop our knowledge of a new group of people. We have to create our own opportunities. And so I've been thinking a lot as I was really reflecting on why is this so hard to make friends for the first time as an adult? And what can we do about it, because we need friendships so much as we grow older. I thought, well, we need to be more like children. We need to create the kind of situation that they create and maybe do the kind of things that they do. So, first thing that we might bring to this problem is patience. Kids who go to school, they may or may not expect to make friends, but they're just there, doing what they have to do. And so they have a lot of time together, just getting to know each other through those little interactions that aren't about making a friendship at all. They're just about sharing a task or being in the same space together, overhearing one another's conversations, laughing at a joke, all those things that start to create a connection between two people. Theta said it takes her probably 15 to 20 hours to know whether a new relationship is going to turn into a real friendship. But research from Jeffrey Hall, published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, indicates that 200 hours might be nearer the mark. Again, not sitting there over a coffee having deep conversations, but just time in the same circles, in one another's company. So, Theta, maybe you're not as much of a tortoise as you think. Something else that we need to do to be more like children is develop opportunity. As with dating to find potential romantic partners or life partners, there's an app for that. In fact, there are many. But as with the search for a life partner, even if you use an app for finding people that you might want to become friends with, it's often through shared interests or projects that we find our friends. And the app developers are smart. And about half the ones I poked around at, that's exactly what they do. They say, let's get together and do something together. I like to run. Let's run together. I'm going to take this class. Who would like to take it with me? And do something you love is always good advice. You know, take that class, do that activity. Because not only might you meet others with whom you click, but if you don't, at least you've spent the time on something that's worthwhile to you. So volunteer for that organization whose work you value. Take that class in pottery or emergency response that you've been thinking, oh, one of these days. Find a social venue for following your interests, something that takes you into interaction with other people. As Theda and many others have said, one of the other problems when you're an adult as opposed to a child is that we just don't seem to have as much time. We have so many obligations. So use your time to do something rewarding. Another difference, another place where that's another thing that's really important in creating friendships, and a place where adult experience, I think, starts to really diverge from children's, is the matter of risk. Again, there's been interesting research published on this, and in one study, investigators asked adults what made it difficult for them to create new friendships. And they had a lot of things that they observed about themselves. Here's what it made me think of. Have you ever watched very young children move? You know, just the way they run, they jump, they play. I remember Fred Bulow looking at my little one. She turned 16 this week. I think she was about 6 at the time. And he said, I'm trying to remember at what age they stop running everywhere. I want to say she's 16, and Fred, if I could tell you this, I'd tell you, the date hasn't come yet. Anyway, you know, you watch them move, and then observe adults moving. There's a stiffness, a constraint. There's a history embedded in our bodies. I don't mean arthritis or a sore back, even if those have not yet set in. There's this emotional stiffness. It's like all our feelings and our experiences find our way into our bodies, and you can see them in how we interact. So that even as we move through the world and introduce ourselves to somebody, our bodies express maybe hesitation or fear or anxiety to please or defensiveness or mistrust. All of which is to say, we've acquired these through experience that those children have not yet had. We judge ourselves harder to be friends with than we used to be. We say things like, I'm introverted, I don't trust easily. We have these opinions about ourselves that we bring into possible friendships. And also, we are more wary of others than we used to be. And so something that people said in the study was something like, I'm picky, you know, I'm hard to please. I reject somebody quite quickly when I first meet them. So maybe we need to act more like children. Think about, what if I set aside these judgments of myself and other people? And I just thought, here I am, I'm in algebra with this person. You know, let's just do the thing together and just let unfold what unfolds. That will let us maybe take the risk that it takes to be friends. You got to walk up to somebody and bare your soul. You got to tell them about that 5-inch ball of tinfoil, or you won't find out what they're about. And you got to be listening for their interest too, without judgment. So if we can let go of the aversion to risk that we have accumulated, maybe something can happen that happened maybe more when we were younger. And then there's a real other complication. This exists for children, but really a lot more for adults. The fact that so many of the people that we meet that we think of as being in our pool of potential friends, they aren't looking to develop another friendship. In fact, they shun them. They think, I've got all the relationships I have time for and energy for. I think of that song. I'm sure it's talking about romantic relationships, but I thought of it immediately when I thought of this topic. The old Beatles song, If I Needed Someone. If I had some more time to spend, then I guess I'd be with you, my friend. You know? Carve your number on my wall, and maybe you'll get a call from me. It's like that. We're moving in a world of people who maybe they've got their social lives, their emotional needs all set up. But all of that brings us back to why we need more friendships, probably than we have right now. People relocate. Increasingly, the older we get, they die. People divorce, resulting, it's probably happened to you, in losing one member of that relationship. People you used to socialize with are now, they didn't get custody of you in the divorce. It's sad, but it's true. So, I want us to think for a moment. Now, another grim kind of study is how many friendships Americans say they actually have. So, you may come up with a very low number here. But I want you to think of the friendship you have that you developed most recently. And sure, romantic partners count. Just somebody you are close to, you can do the things with that friends do. Try to think which one developed most recently in your life. And when you've got it, how did you meet that person? And what did you do? How long did it take to turn into each of you knowing, oh, this is somebody I want to be with more? Try to think about the story of that friendship. Not that you can replicate it, because there's luck and there's clicking. There's a clicking, just like happens in romance, between people who are going to be friends. But to remind yourself, you know how to do this. And even if you went all the way back to 10 years old, or you're not sure you ever knew how to do this, you have some of these skills. And of course, you have this community. Hey, you are way ahead of a lot of folks in finding friends. Although it still takes a lot of patience, it takes building more opportunities, and it takes risk, even once you found a place like UUCPA. If you came here seeking community, in other words, friendships, you are far from alone. Most of us did. For most of us, that was a major factor. Like any group of people with common interests, common goals, values, and a worldview we share, we're a good group of people for finding a friend in. And yet, looking around at a couple hundred people, you're not going to click with all of them. You're not going to really become friends with really good friends. Call late at night when you're having a bad time kind of friends with more than a couple. That's probably enough. But who are they? Well, we've been talking about that quite a lot in leadership in the church. How do we help people to make those connections? Because this is such a deep problem in our society and in this local culture. We John and I and Kat and the membership and growth committee talked about having tables, not like a whole fair, although those are great too, but just kind of cycling through different small groups, having a table, maybe a couple of the tables after the service, especially as the weather warms up, and you can go over and learn about this or that group and how do you get involved or create another one like it. That would be helpful because we have a lot of ways to connect. Might be helpful at those tables to tell each other the story of how long it took. Oh, I went to 3 different women's groups, somebody might say, and they were nice people, interesting people, they just didn't click. The one I'm in now, yeah, this one really clicked. We'll be teaching each other something about making friends, as well as providing those opportunities. Something else we've been talking about, Christy Iverson, who's currently the chair of Membership and Growth, asked me, she said, you know, those times in the service where you have people put on a sticker that goes into coffee hour, this was, pure planning on my part to get you all talking about things, as Theta says, things besides what brought you here today, right? Something that takes us a little farther in another direction. Well, I didn't bring any today. Although I promised Christy, I'll think of more services where there's a good match, and you look at them and see what you think. What would be a good sticker for a particular service to help us keep talking? Because you don't, make friends all listening to a sermon together. I'm glad you're all here, but that's not where you're going to make friends. You make friends and you deepen friendships in the conversations. So we're going to have invisible stickers today. Because here's that question I just asked you. When, where, how did you make your most recent friend? Or, a friendship that comes to mind, preferably one after childhood. It's a great introduction, by the way. I mean, you're going to have an interesting conversation with somebody just by exchanging those things about each other, just by asking that question and listening with an open heart. So, if you have time today, let's ask each other that question after the service. Tell me about a friendship of yours. And if you don't have time today, try it next week. We'll be here. Because, here's what something like a congregation does. It's not just that we provide logistics, the sort of structure, the small groups that say, oh, you could meet because you all like to sing together, or you meet because you're all parents of teens, or something like that. It's not just that we're a gathering hub. What's powerful about a congregation, about this congregation, is that we're here because it helps us to grow in vulnerability, in the courage to take those risks, in the compassion to say, yeah, I kind of have all the friends I need. I have a pretty busy time just with my partner or my closest friend or my kids or my job. But sure, come on over to our house after service. We'll have lunch together because there's just always more room for love in our lives. So let us help one another to grow in vulnerability and courage and compassion and see what friendships might blossom. Now, if we are moved by gratitude to each other, we may choose to support with whatever financial resources we can this community that we are creating. That helps us to grow in such important ways. And so we will now give and receive the offering. We have the box up here if you'd like to give cash or a check. The order of service gives a QR code and link, and also information on using text to give via Give Lively, as Liz sings.
qui seul jeudi soir, je chante les amours que je reçois, les amours que je reçois. Au son de ton harmonie, je rafraîchisse ma chaleur. Ma chaleur flénée, naissante d'amour ma guitare, je te chante par qui seul jeudi soir, jeudi soir, je chante les amours que je reçois, les amours que je reçois.
I'm going to skip this hymn altogether, but let's sing just 2 verses of it. We will sing the first and third verses. It's a rainy day, so we need to sing Walk in Rain. Please rise in body or spirit. It's number 346, where the words are there.
Oh belle source, je veux me rappeler sans cesse qu'un jour guidé par l'amitié, ravi, j'ai contemplé ton visage déesse, perdu sur l'amour à moitié. Connaît-elle t'amourer, c'est avec que je pleure, en nymphe occulte attachée, pour s'oublier encore, souffler tes fleurs, et répondre à ton cachet. Belle source, je veux me rappeler sans cesse qu'un jour guidé par l'amitié, j'ai contemplé ton visage en déesse.
Yeah. Oops, sorry, I gotta do my. Wonderful. Wonderful to be together. Let us. Just can't hear myself. Whether you are online or in the main hall, please stay after the benediction for our conversation time. Folks who are newcomers, whether you've been able to RSVP or not, join us for lunch and conversation in the fireside room today. And let us now do however we like to connect, holding hands symbolically or literally. Please unmute yourself if you're online, and we'll say our benediction together. Go out into the world in peace.
Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Return